So what's the responsibility of the executors to make sure they
The
do it right?
executors are responsible for ensuring that the wishes of the deceased are carried out in accordance with the terms of the will.
Right. What if they don't and someone contests?
Or they can challenge the will. We can be an executor behaving badly. We can have them removed as an executor.
Okay.
But just back, that brings me to another point about the homemade will kit. If you have vague and unclear terms in a will, which can be in either a solicitor drawn will or a will kit will, I give $1,000 to my grandchildren.
Okay.
To each of them, or divided by the 6. So we might have some unclear and vague wording that needs to be determined.
True. And sort of moving on from the will, what about like with the power of attorney and the health directives? Let's stick with the power of attorney. How important is one of those?
It's really critical because if you're unconscious or if you have an illness or with dementia or something like that, you're not going to be able to operate your own bank accounts.
No.
And there's not a bank in the world that's going to let me turn up and say, I'm here to pay this phone bill with her out of her bank account.
Yes.
Without the authorisation from the person.
And what if that person's got online access, for example?
I hear that a lot.
How do the banks know?
I guess they really don't.
They don't know.
But as soon as things went, trying to sell real estate or trying to put somebody in a nursing home where you needed to deal with a large amount of money, you'd need to have that documentation in place. And then again, if you don't, then we're back to SACAT to get appointed.
Letters of, wow. And then I find it very interesting, the health directives, the advanced health.
I have to say I'm not the biggest fan of the advanced care directive. I believe that the booklet that accompanies the forms goes through in so much detail.
Does.
Mine simply says that my decision makers are aware of my wishes. My son knows that if he doesn't get my eyebrows waxed, I'll haunt him forever. But it's not in my advanced care directive.
Right.
Okay. My advanced care directive literally does say my decision makers are aware of my wishes. It says that I'm happy to donate my organs and tissues.
Right.
And then I have a clause where I say that, and 99% of my clients include this clause, that if I'm in the terminal phase of a terminal disease or illness, then keep me comfortable, relieve pain, don't operate if it's just going to prolong the inevitable.
Pull the plug is what I call it.
Yeah, the pull the plug one.
That's it.
Yeah.
Just to get it.
But the decision makers that you appoint under the advanced care directive, you trust them. You trust them to make the decision in accordance with the situation to which they are presented.
Yes.
If I've had a massive aneurysm and we're just waiting for my brother to get off a plane, I'm not going to care about my eyebrows.
No. Absolutely not. Very true. And the person that would be your executor of your will, power of attorney and the advanced healthcare directive, should they be all the one person, or is there benefits of having different personalities for
Every
those?
family is different. I have the same person for myself, and most people have the same people. With the advanced care directive, it doesn't matter if somebody's in London or New York or Sydney to make those decisions, because decisions can be made over the telephone in relation to that.
Yes.
And from my experience, all children like to have a say in the outcome of their parents.
Absolutely.
With the enduring power of attorney, it's probably better to have somebody here. But again, all family situations are different, and you could certainly appoint 2 or 3 people jointly and severally, which means they can act together or independently of one another.
Is there any pros and cons with that? Or is it unique?
Yeah, again, every family is different. It's just more of a hassle if you have to get 2 people to sign every bank withdrawal slip or things like that. Where I find issues with powers of attorney is where someone's paid mum's phone bill or something like that.
Oh, right.
And 3 years down the track, someone says, what's this $30 for? I can't remember.
Oh, but then you have to, don't you?
You do. So it's really important. You have to, under the Act, you have to keep proper, accurate records.
Yes.
And I just advise siblings when they're acting, just keep each other in the loop.
Correct. And does that paperwork ever come up for review in some shape or form, or is it just when someone contests the will or contests a situation?
If an attorney has been not acting in the best interests of the donor or the giver of the power, the parent, let's say in that scenario, and perhaps have been using funds for their own benefit and not for the benefit of the person, then
Yes.
yeah. So I've had a couple of situations where we've challenged people under the Powers of Attorney and Agency Act.
Oh, okay.
And called for an accounting of everything, and that can
How
be
did that go?
Oh yeah. Unfortunately, in both of the situations, they're both mothers. They both died before we got to the end.
Oh no.
So it was always sad.
That is very sad. Not good at all. I mean, in terms of executing a will or power of attorney or whatever the case may be, there's a lot of trust that is imposed.
Absolutely. You have to trust the
and
person.
Responsibility as well. So that sort of can be a bit of a stressor to people. So that's why it's always good to have that conversation about, can you do this? And can they, if they're appointed, can they remove themselves?
If they can, and if the mum, for instance, has given them the power and mum still has capacity, then mum can redo a new power of attorney.
Yes.
If she doesn't, and I have seen this as well, where mum's all of a sudden becoming very difficult with advancing age and cognitive abilities, shall we say.
Yes.
And making life very difficult for the person appointed, well, then they can go and have themselves removed at SACAT.
Okay. Oh, okay. And then who would then come in?
It would be back to square one. So SACAT would then say, is there anybody else willing to put their hand up or thereabouts, and decide who the best personal people were.
So that just delays the process.
And just could end up with public trustee.
And if the person is sick and whatever, then that's just, that person's in limbo really, aren't they? So you've got to find the right person who's willing to do the job.
Someone that you can trust.
And someone who you can trust, absolutely. So, yes, someone who you can trust. That's the number one game. I think it's in everything, but ethics, and sometimes some people think, having two people, like, for example, the accountant in there or the lawyer in there is going to keep everyone honest. Do you think that's true? Or do they just handball it to the accountant and the lawyer and say, you fix it?
I'm in the middle of at the moment with warring siblings in an estate, and it is, I just want to bang their heads together. It's very difficult.
Hopefully you're not listening.
It's very difficult being in that position.
Yes, absolutely.
And particularly if, documents might get signed 20 years ago and not become fully activated for another 20 years, and the firm may not be there, the solicitor may not be practicing.
The accountant might not be there.
Practicing, yeah.
So, yeah, it's a challenge, isn't it?
It is. I mean, in some circumstances, it is the only option. And I would always advise somebody to go to a larger firm if that's what they wanted to do, where there's reasonable assuredness that the firm will continue.
Yeah, very true, very true.